Not on the CD.
Oh,
But we'll play when that is.
thank you. Traveling Light, that was amazing. Setting the stage for me. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And thank you for allowing me to be your guest speaker today. I'm extremely honored and blessed. So we're finishing up the month of April, which is the spiritual living through transformation and evolution. And I feel so honored and blessed to be here today to speak on this important topic of that transformation and evolution, because that's why we're here, right? So today I'm talking to you about how we elevate our thinking, because there's unlimited possibilities that live just beyond our circumstances. And sometimes I feel like we forget that. I know I do. So as I was preparing for this talk this week, and a couple weeks actually, I was inspired by just a culmination of life events. I too am fortunate enough to be in the Prosperity Plus class that is facilitated by our very own Ross and Reverend Yvonne, and we have an amazing, amazing class. And Mary Morrissey's subject matter around prosperity is truly inspiring. It was kind of mind-blowing to me how I always thought that I knew what prosperity meant or what abundance meant, and then it was like I stepped in this class and I was like, whoa, like this wave just hit me, and my life has transformed. We're in we just finished our 7th week, and so my life is transforming just as I'm speaking right here and right now. And so it's one of those things that, when you put a thought out into the universe and you don't really know what you don't know of how fast or how hard it's going to come back at you, like in a good way, like that's what's happening to me. So, and today is actually a result of that. Today, speaking in front of you, part of the classes we talk about our vision and living our truest potential and our highest, in our highest self, that authentic form. And one of my dreams has always been to speak, and voila, here I am. Woo! And it just presented itself in such a beautiful way that I never even thought in my own human mind could be possible. So I'm here to tell you this stuff works. It absolutely works. So today, I picked the topic about circumstances because this is really what spoke to my heart in the first few weeks of class. We always talk about change your thinking, change your life. And we hear that all the time in our, in the religious science philosophy, change your thinking, change your life. But what does that mean, really? I think sometimes for me, when I hear it, I'm like, okay, change your thinking, change your life. I get it. But do I really get it? Like at the core of who I am, do I really get it? And what I've learned through this class is that just like when you are going through life and maybe a challenge or an opportunity arises, and you're like, gosh, I thought I worked through this already. And here it is again. Those ebbs and flows. Well, change your thinking, change your life has the same impact, right? It's the level of which you take it. So every time you hear it, do you take it that one step deeper? Do you peel that onion and let it penetrate that one step deeper? And what I realized is that I wasn't doing that until I took this class. So what was really cool is in Mary Morris's talk, she talks about circumstance. Well, circumstance, if you break down the word, it's the circle in which you stand. Like, duh, didn't get it, So if I'm getting limited by my own circumstances, well, what does that mean? So it made me really pause, take a step back, take a deep breath, and really look at that. Like, wow, so I have this happening over here, I have this happening over here, this is over here. And it really helped me to kind of deconstruct my thinking process. But then I'm like, okay, so I did that, now what? Where do I go from here? And what she goes on to talk to us about and teach about is that sometimes in our human form, we get caught in the senses, right? The five senses that we have, what we hear, what we see, what we speak, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch. We look for that physical evidence because this is in the world in which we live, is that physical presence. But what she goes on to talk about are these other senses that we have beyond our physical. And it wasn't until she was speaking about this that it really sunk in the core of who I am. Like, oh, well, yeah, all my circumstances are a result of the physical. But when I really go into that higher self, that higher consciousness, that doesn't matter. This event over here isn't really defining who I am. What I do as a job over here doesn't define who I am. It's all of the other senses that are in our consciousness that sometimes we forget or maybe don't even realize are a sense that make the difference, that we tend to neglect, we tend to forget about. So in that forgetfulness for myself, part of what was the awakening moment for me was as I'm going through this class, and I'm not kidding you, I think it was the next Monday, we have class on Wednesdays, it was that following Monday after we were talking about circumstances, that I went into work. And where I work, I hold two positions. I work as a chaplain for a hospice, but I also work as a staffer, making sure that we had enough nurses and certified nurses' aides and staff going out to the visits. Well, I'm covering for a chaplain on this particular Monday, and I get called in and they're like, sorry, we're letting you go of the staffing job. Whoa, what? That's where I spend most of my time. I'm not ready for this. I didn't see this coming. And I had to stop and pause and really look at that and be like, oh, what does this mean? Wait, that was a circumstance. And my vision was beyond what my circumstance was allowing me to see. So, let me look at this. Let me think of this a little bit differently. And so for the first time, I didn't go into that panic mode. Like, normally I would be like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Go into that fear. And I was able to just catch it before it happened and say, wait, no, this is what I've been putting out there. The universe is saying yes. Why am I complaining? This is my chance to really step beyond those circumstances and live my dream. So if you could show my first slide. So this is how it works, folks. Here's my comfort zone. And that's where the magic happens. And I had to get over myself, get over my fear, get over that I'm in control, and say, I surrender. Which brought me to a whole nother question. Who am I surrendering to? When you're faced with a problem and you're faced with a challenge, I ask you now internally to think, who do you surrender to? Who do you surrender that to? Do you surrender it to being outside of yourself? Or do you surrender it to your heart, where the divine truly lives? And that was my second aha. Holy moly, who am I surrendering to? And part of that peace came with that knowing that when I truly surrender and I truly release, it's surrendering to that power within, into my heart's calling, which is really the driving force for me to be my authentic, perfect self, to do what I'm supposed to do on this planet, because only I can do it. And that was another big one to swallow. Only I can do it the way I do it. I had coffee with a friend last week, and we were talking. I love having coffee with her because we get in these really juicy, deep, rich conversations. And I was telling her about being let go and explaining, okay, now I have this opportunity to create whatever it is I want. And she's like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I had this vision. And vision, part of it was being able to speak and just be that conduit for the divine. She's like, yeah, but what else? I'm like, well, is there anything else? I hadn't gone to that next level. Again, I was kind of stuck in my circumstance. So we got to talking, and I said, I'd really like to write a book and and put my message, put my heart on paper and have it out there. But how many books are out there? I always had a "but right after my sentences, and she caught me on it. And she's like, I hear you, and I've been there. And she's like, and I get there sometimes too, but there are thousands and thousands of artists that paint these masterpieces, but no masterpiece is ever the same. And it took me a minute, and I was like, oh wow, so I do have words to speak, and maybe they've been spoken before, but I bring it in a different way. I use different colors. I use different textures. I use different patterns, and it's my creative force. So that too was like, whoa, this stuff really works. So it's that change your thinking, change your life, right? So I became aware of what I was thinking, and that's another thing with Prosperity Plus. Mary Morrissey always encourages you to be aware of what you're thinking. And I've noticed that I'm wanting to be more aware than asleep. And I wake up every day saying, you know what, today's a new day. And today I'm going to be awake. And I'm going to go through my day, and I'm going to be aware of what I'm noticing. I'm going to be aware of how life is unfolding so I can use my circumstances as a thermometer of my consciousness, of my dream. It's my map. Sure, in our teaching we talk about how maybe a dis-ease can lead you down a path, or maybe there's strife that leads you down another path. But we don't have to wait for those big, loud sirens if we're aware in the moment, because our circumstances are providing that guidance, like little bumpers on a bowling alley, making sure that you're going in the right path for your highest and best, because that's how the universe works. That's all the universe ever wants. That's what God wants, is that highest and best to always unfold. It's when we get in our own stuff that it mires us down. So there was a quote that I wanted to share, and it means a lot to me. I came across it during my practitioner training. I like it so much I actually have it on my skin because it reminds me every day of being in that presence. And so, Tony, if we can go to slide 3, please. So it's in Latin, and it says, "Ne te quesaveris extra." And it means, do not seek for things outside yourself. Do not seek for answers outside yourself. It's from Emerson. It's from one of his essays. And when I read that, I was like so moved. And it takes you back. It took me back to, who do I surrender to? Who is that power? That power is the divine. That power is within me. So when I look at that quote, every day I see it. It's that reminder of being aware, waking up grateful. One thing that I love about Mary Morrissey, and she said it in a way that I hadn't really heard, is that each day is a lifetime in mini form. And I know, Reverend Julie, she speaks about this all the time, about every day, there's always a birth and a death of certain situations or instances that happen in our lives. But for me, hearing that every day is a mini lifetime was powerful, because it took away the essence of time and longevity and put me in the now, which is important, to stay in the now, because tomorrow's not promised, but today is, this moment is. So I ask you, what are you doing in this moment? Be aware. Those times when you're in that now, in that aware space, that is truly when you're connected to the divine, truly connected to your higher self. And listen. Make sure to listen. Ernest Holmes, he always talks about the power and the presence of the one, and speaking into that power and presence what you want. In one of his quotes, he says, when you get the idea of the thing that you want done, speak right out into the mind. The mind does it. Mind is the only action here. And again, for me, I forgot that. It's so easy to think that I have to control it because I'm in this physical space. I'm in this physical world. And it's about transcending that. It's about transforming that. So there's another quote that I really love from him. And if you can please show it, Tony. It's the next one. I live in faith that there is a presence and a power greater than I am, that nurtures and supports me in ways I could never even imagine. I know that this presence is all-knowing and all power and is always right where I am. So for me, when I get in those moments of doubt or fear, even when, I had a little fear around talking today, I went to this and I took it in my heart. And I realized that I am not alone. I am not alone. I am not alone up here. I am not alone with you in the crowd. I feel your love. I feel your support. And I feel your grace up here. I told Reverend Julie, I said, I'm really excited, but, I'm a crier. So I'm afraid I'm going to get up there and I'm just going to cry and cry and cry. And she's like, and that's okay, It's okay to show your emotion. And quite frankly, I'm really surprised I haven't cried yet. But that's all good, because I feel the love. I feel the support. And when I cry, it's because I just feel that so much at such a deeper level. And I allow myself to do so. I allow myself to break down those walls, to hear that message of the divine coming through each and every one of those individuals I come in contact with, each and every circumstance, each and every moment. So I encourage you this week to really take that in. Take that into your heart. Try it on. See if it works. It's powerful, powerful stuff. So then, the other thing that came up for me as I was preparing for this talk and thinking about my job, I went into that place of, okay, why this opportunity now? When something happens, you always kind of want to know the why. And, we're always taught it doesn't matter about the why, it's just knowing and trusting and letting the magic happen. But the humanness in us are like, why? I want to know the answers. I want to deconstruct it. I want to figure it out so I don't do it again. Then you have to realize, well, it's not about you. Never was. I'm like, oh yeah, So then I had the opportunity to really look at it like, is this really a bad thing? Is this a good thing? What's my perspective on it? Is this going to move me forward? Is this going to keep me back? So I went through this series of processing and self-discovery of that ebb and flow, again, of trusting, about changing your life, changing your thinking and changing your life. Do I want to do this the old way? By questioning and getting mired down in all of the bemoaning and groaning and, oh my gosh, why did this happen to me? Or do I want to say, yes, I wasn't strong enough to walk away, but, God knew it was the best thing for me, so I'm going to step into it with all of my glory and all of my power and see where it takes me. That's hard to do. I'm not going to lie. I was like, took my breath away. But I learned a lot in that moment about what is important and the power of, again, those senses that are in the consciousness realm, that I'll tell you what they are. Perspective is one of them. Perspective is huge. How many times do we look at a situation and we think it's one way, and then you hear the backstory and you're like, oh my gosh, I would have never known that it happened that way. Or, this is an awful thing. But you know what? Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for allowing this to happen so that it can push me forward. It just feels better. staying in that positive, staying in that essence of love, like your song so elegantly spoke about. You can't keep love bottled in. And at the end of the day, that's what God is. That's what the universe is. That's what source is. It's love. It's the highest frequency out there. Can't get away from it. So embrace it. Live with it. Let that be your fuel to take you to that spiral of evolution and transformation, to allow you to reach your authentic selves. Powerful stuff. Powerful. So I came across another slide that I thought was really, really fitting. Can we go to the next slide, please, Tony? The ego tries to convince us that we must do things to achieve enlightenment. The spirit knows that enlightenment is not a matter of doing, but a magnificent consequence of being. So I want you to breathe that in. I want you to feel your beingness. Feel that presence. I invite you to close your eyes right now. Just take a deep breath in. And as you take that deep breath in, I just encourage you to go into that heart space. Connect with the divine, that purest essence of love. Feel it. Feel its support. Feel it surrounding you like a nice warm hug. Feel it vibrating through each and every cell of your body. Give thanks to that feeling, that life force. It is where the magic happens. I invite you to open your eyes. Can you feel it? I can feel it. It's powerful. It's tangible for me. That's where you go when you feel lost or scared, uncertain or unsure. Close your eyes. Take that deep breath in. Feel that love and surrender to the power and the presence within you, which is where Source lives. The divine lives and breathes. You cannot take a breath without that energy. It's all energy. So talk about these senses, these higher consciousness senses. And they are imagination, right? Imagination. We're always taught to create, to think, to be outside of our current physical plane. One thing that was spoken in Mary Morrissey's talk was we create twice, once when we think it and once when it actually comes to fruition, right? There's perception. We've already talked about that. There's will. Do I have it in me? Do I surrender to that power and presence within me? There's memory. We think of situations that have happened in the past that have enhanced us. And maybe, in some sense, we feel like it's held us back, but really, they've all enhanced us. Again, if you look at the perception, right? It's where we learn. It's where the rubber meets the road. There's also reason. What does this look like for me? It's that processing. So when we get caught in our circumstances, we get caught in that physical plane of what currently surrounds us, I encourage you to just take a step back, Take that deep breath in, touch that magical place, and know that just on the other side are unlimited possibilities for you. You just gotta think it and be it. The potion right there. Think it and be it. So I encourage you to just lean on that natural higher state of being. Make sure to notice what you're noticing. And make sure you're choosing that which is in your highest and best. I found this last slide and it made me chuckle. Some see a weed and some see a wish. It's all how you look at things. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for letting me pour my heart and my message out today. I am so grateful. And so it is.
I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Rena on her first sermon behind this pulpit.